are you? Hello, Nads. How's it going? Hello, hello. Just giving it a couple of minutes for the people to trickle in. I notified everybody on my Telegram that I'd be going live in 10 minutes. That was 4 minutes ago. So I'm a little earlier than promised, but I owe it to everybody because yesterday I made the announcement that I would go live and then I abruptly cancelled 5 minutes after due to a family situation I had to attend to. So my apologies on that. How are you guys? Assalamu alaikum to everybody. Manifesting is a scam. Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. At least that's my opinion from what I've studied in that realm. Hello. I'm doing well, thanks, Ethan. How are you? How does it go? How are you? Sorry, I'm just waiting for a few people. Hello, Maria. Alaikum assalam. I mean, Ajmai. Hope you're doing well. You know, I noticed recently, because I haven't been on many lives. I mean, I haven't done a live. Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. I'm doing well, thanks. How are you? I haven't done a live in about I don't know, a couple of weeks, 10 days roughly. And I was more frequent with my lives, but recently I've found myself heavily preoccupied. And so I wasn't able to get on. However, I do scroll every now and then and just see what's happening in the world and push yourself to achieve them. Okay. Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. And I don't know, I've noticed a trend, which is what I posted about in my Telegram last night, that there's all these lives that talk about mental health. And it's like safe space, mental health disorder. Come join and talk about your mental health problems. And I don't know, it just seems a little disingenuous to have. Hmm, it's a longer topic to discuss. There's just something's off about that. Jazakumullah khair, Sulaiman. I appreciate that. Barakallah fikum. Did you talk about manifesting? Are these frequency things real or not? I don't believe they're real. No, I believe it's a. I spoke about it. I mean, I gave a whole 2.5 hour talk about 10 days ago, which is going to be live on my YouTube, by the way, in the next few hours, inshallah. And snippets of that will be on TikTok and on YouTube and on Instagram, etc. But the whole thing will be on YouTube in about, I don't know, maybe by tomorrow at least, at the latest, sorry, it should be on. So you can watch that entire thing. And I kind of went into the history of the law of attraction, where that came about, the demonic origins of that, the Eastern traditions, what they brought to the table through Buddhism, Taoism, and Hinduism, a bit of Sikhism, and how these two have come together and colluded to create this New Age spirituality and this New Age religion, um, that people are subtly adopting unknowingly, that contradicts the fundamental aqidah of the deen, and that's problematic. And the reason, well, there's many reasons, but one of them as to why people adopt this, Muslims especially, is because, and this is kind of what I talked about, and you'll see that on the full YouTube video, is there's a two-prone attack. There's an internal weakness, and then there's an external attack, and those two coupled together create the ideal victim to fall, for these kinds of scams, because they prey on those who desperately need answers to their main three elements, which are in human psychology, which is wealth, health, and relationships. And so somebody comes to you and just says, just sit there and send your good vibes to the universe, and the universe will respond to you, and the universe will give you whatever it is you want. So long as you can manifest at the right frequency and you can open up your chakras by yoga as one methodology, and there's a whole thing about yoga. And I spoke about that as well. I didn't go into too much depth of that, but I spoke on it enough as to how it relates to the whole ideology of the cosmic energies and the frequencies and the manifestation and the meditation, and all that thing is a scam. Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi. How are you? Yoga is demonic. Yeah, I don't disagree. Um, well, it's demonic in a sense to us. To others, perhaps they see it as Hinduism or Buddhism or whatever they want. But if you try to understand the reality of it, um, you'll see that it is not just a bunch of stretches that you do in awkward positions. Rather, you are unknowingly, and so therefore, on an Islamic pretense, wallahu alam, again, not a sheikh or a mufti, one isn't held accountable for what they don't know. And so most people go around just doing wearing their yoga pants with a Starbucks cup of coffee, Birkenstock slippers, because there's a whole persona that you have to fit into, right? And I find that funny. I see that in the States a lot. I don't know about the UK as much. I think it's still there because it's like a universal image for the women, especially. Those who want to go into the yoga realm, they have to get yoga pants, have a Starbucks cup of coffee, get Birkenstock slippers, and walk around with a yoga mat. And then tell everybody you're vegan. That's kind of the it's like a starter pack, right? If you want to go into the whole yoga realm, there's a starter pack for you, and you have to dress in a certain way and be all spiritual, wear some beaded necklace, and because you're trying to get rid of the negative energies, and you're trying to earth yourself so you can be better and manifest better and so forth. So there's a whole persona that's attached with the whole idea of adopting yoga. What if you're thinking about a positive future, so you're more optimistic, leading to a better decision? Of course, you're meant to be positive in that sense of being optimistic. I mean, we have hope and trust in Allah, and you're not meant to be a gloomy, doomy person. You're meant to trust that tomorrow will be better, or the next hour will be better. And right now is great, if that's not enough. But that's the reality of it. Am I teaching? No, I'm not teaching anything. Is he teaching? Is he teaching what? I'm not. I'm just talking about. I did a live about 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago, roughly, talking about the demonic origins of the law of attraction, literal demonic origins of the law of attraction, and I broke it down step by step, and I went all the way back to the founders of this ideology, and I covered it. So I'm just kind of recapping on what we discussed. But yeah, so I don't buy into the whole yoga scam. I don't buy into the whole law of attraction scam, the manifestation scam. Meditation is a scam. And I'm saying scam. I'm using a euphemism here, but the reality is deceitful trickery that's played upon the minds of the vulnerable, those who are in desperate situations in terms of wealth, health, or relationships. And so they need answers to the things that they cannot put their hands on, right? The things that they need help the most with, and nobody seems to give them that answer. The reality is these answers are there. They're in the deen, but sadly, a lot of us don't understand the deen as well as we should. And we take the deen as a series of rituals that we have to do, and we keep those private in our house. When we go outside, we need to, welcome the 21st century. So the deen no longer applies, and that's quite sad. But why does manifesting work for non-Muslims? Ah, good question. That's a very good. I mean, it's the same reason as to why for non-Muslims, let's say Christians, for example, somebody can get possessed by a jinn, and then they'll get a priest, and he'll exorcise that person, or exorcise the jinn, the demon, out of them, and it works, or seemingly so, it works, right? So you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. The guy said some biblical verses, and he held up a crucifix, and things are working. So what's going on there? If you think about that for a minute, you can see the shaitan, and this is again is my opinion. The shaitan, as far as he's concerned, his main job is to mess us around and get us off the straight path. And so it doesn't matter how it's done, so long as we just don't believe in the truth. That's the end goal. So long as we do not come back to Allah, do not come back to the Sirat al-Mustaqim, to the Deen, then his job is done. So he'll present one lie, and if that doesn't work for you, he'll present another lie as the truth, and then you fall for that one. You say, oh, look, it's working over there, right? So when you're saying non-Muslims are manifesting, I mean, are there non-Muslims who aren't manifesting, but they're also super rich? Excuse me. My kid's in the room. And I mean, there's non-Muslims who aren't manifesting, and they get all the greatness of the dunya. What's the problem there? They're non-Muslims. So then what would you question the deen, you see? Yeah, well, alhamdulillah. That's called support. It has its place. I'm not sure. I missed a few comments, I guess. Their exorcism, exactly. My name is... What? Okay. I'm not sure what that comment means. I'm Muslim. The law of attraction is haram. Excellent. And hello, brother. And well, of course it is. I mean, the origins of the law of attraction, right? You don't have to take my word for it. Look it up yourself. I'll give you a few bullet points, and you can run with that yourself. Because the reality is when I'm presenting this, or when I presented it last time, I covered both aspects to leave no room for discussion, no room for debate. I covered the origins of it, and then the contradictions that it has with Islam. And so, if you wanted to argue the Islamic side, which is a flawed argument, but nevertheless, if you wanted to argue that, you fall back onto the origins, and the origins are demonic. So it's like, what are you arguing with? When the origin of this concept and this false ideology and this fake philosophy and this scam of a religion is demonic in its essence. So if you want to disregard the Islamic argument, that's fine. I don't recommend it, but that's fine if you want to debate that way. And I'm not looking for a debate, by the way. But you go back to the origins and you can see, where can we find your explanations? I'm actually putting up the YouTube video. It should be up tomorrow at the latest, inshallah. The full, it's like 2.5 hours long. It was a very long live, and for those who soldiered it with me, barakallah fikum. And then as we progress through the days, there'll be snippets of it. I have the team kind of breaking it up, and then they'll upload it onto TikTok and Instagram and YouTube and all these things. But the whole thing will go on YouTube, inshallah. So, but the reality is, the origins of the law of attraction. I'll give you a quick brief in case you guys didn't attend that extensive, exceedingly long live a couple of weeks ago. Is you can go back to the book The Secret, right? Everybody knows the book. I mean, most people know the book The Secret, and if you don't, great. But if you do, it's a load of garbage. You can get rid of it. The book The Secret was written by Rhonda Byron, who's an Australian film presenter, documenter. I can't remember what she is, but she's an author, and she made a documentary and things like that. And she wrote this book called The Secret, which came out in 2009, maybe 2008, something along those lines. And that book was mainly inspired by the teachings of these two people. These two people were called Esther and Jerry Hicks. Now, they were a couple, right? Now, Jerry, I believe, died 2011, if I'm not mistaken. It doesn't matter. The guy's gone. The lady's still around, and she's in her 60s, perhaps even 70s, I'm not sure. And she goes around preaching the law of attraction. And they have a website. So you can go to the website, and you can see what I'm talking about. And it's called Abraham-Hicks.com, if I remember correctly. I don't have any notes in front of me, so I'm kind of freeballing it here. And if you go on their website, you'll be introduced to the law of attraction and everything that they preach. Why slavery in the name of Allah? I'm not sure about that. Okay, there's a whole conversation happening in the comments, but anyways. So if you go back to Abraham Hicks, and now this couple is called Esther and Jerry Hicks. Esther is the lady, Jerry is the guy. So who's Abraham Hicks? Abraham, and I'm going to give you the non-dramatic conclusion. Abraham is the entity, aka the jinn, the demon, the spirit that they deal with, and they channel, well, he's channeled through them to preach out whatever it is they teach, and the main one being the law of attraction. And they wrote, I think, 3 or 4 books, and one of the most famous ones was a book called Money and the Law of Attraction. And in the preface, on page 15 of that book, Jerry writes that this book was the manuscript or the written word, the documentation of whatever Abraham Hicks taught us. And when we compiled it all together, we had to present this book to Abraham. This is the jinn. And he restructured the format of the book to make it more easy for the reader to understand and adopt the philosophy. So, and this is all the teachings of Abraham Hicks, who is a jinn. So the origins of the book are a jinn, authored by a jinn, edited by a jinn, published by a jinn. I mean, the whole thing, the whole entire publishing house is jinn operated. And so if you want to, again, disregard the Islamic side of that, separate argument, but then the origins are demonic in and of themselves. So why even go down that route, subhanAllah. Excuse me. You can go further back beyond that. So it's like what inspired, and I talked about this as well, what inspired Jerry and Esther Hicks to kind of, instead of just putting a movie on, if they really were that bored, I'm not promoting movies, but if you were that bored, just put a movie on. But if you're not going to, what would possess you? And again, I used that joke before, but pun intended. What would possess you to go and just make this whole new age religion and preach the law of attraction and all this kind of stuff, right? And if you go back beyond that, you go to a lady called Jane Roberts and her husband Robert Butts. And same thing, they were in the 60s. She was channeling for a jinn called Seth. And so she wrote a book called Seth Speaks. And you can read up about this. There's a whole collection called the Seth Collection or the Seth Materials. And people study this and they adopt this philosophy and so forth. Barakallah fikum. Jazakumullah khair for the kind comment. Alaikum assalam, Shahid. How are you? But yeah, so Jane Roberts comes up with the same garbage, and they're also preaching the same thing from their gin called Seth. And then these guys, Jerry and Esther Hicks, they have their same thing with Abraham Hicks and their gin. And they're all preaching the same garbage. And that's kind of the reality of it. I mean, the thing is, a lot of people aren't aware of that. So you just look at the Book of the Secret, you're like, oh wow, it's telling you how to get everything you want in life. And all you have to do is clear your mind and focus your energies and channel your energies to be at one with the universe. Now, at one with the universe, you're talking about the concept of becoming God, ma'adallah. Because so this is where it gets very, very hairy and very tricky. And there's a few different philosophies and they're all intertwined. So you have the Western side and the Eastern side, and this is kind of what we talked about, right? So you have the idea of energies, and then you have the idea of chakras, and you have the idea of reincarnation, and you have the ideas of karma, and you have all these different philosophies coming together, and they all kind of, once you can dissect each and every one of them, you can see how the whole thing comes as a package, and you got to accept the whole thing to kind of be able to manifest and to bring about all this positive change in your life. And then you have Muslim people who preach this and they say, no, no, it's Islamic. It's legit. We have energies and you're floating around in this metaphysical body there's the ether. And you need to push out positive charge and you need to do certain actions. I mean, close the bathroom door when you leave the bathroom because Allah, because you're letting out negative energy from the bathroom. And then if you do something in a certain way, you're bringing in positive energy. And subhanAllah, there's a lot of illogical statements within that belief. I mean, a lot. It's not a few. And aside from the fact that it's illogical, it's contradictory to the Aqidah. And aside from both of that, again, I reiterate it, that this is demonic in its origin. So what's the problem? But then people still come and defend it. They say, no, 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 but there is. It's like, this is demonic. What do you want with it? Why are we pursuing that? I think people confuse a lot with I am as my slave thinks I أنا عند ظن عبدي بي. That's a hadith, I believe, hadith Qudsi, if I recall. But yeah, people do. This is the thing, though. I mean, you have, and I quoted a few verses that kind of supported that discussion we had a couple of weeks ago. There's آيات محكمات and آيات متشابهات فأما الذين في قلوبهم زيغ فيتبعون ما تشابه منه ابتغاء الفتنة وابتغاء تأويله. Yani there are verses that are clear cut, very straightforward. There's no room for error. And then there are verses that are mutashabihat, and those with zayg in their heart, those with ill intent in their heart, tend to pursue these verses and understand them the way they see fit, to fit their narrative, to fit their lifestyle, so that they can justify that it is Islamic. I mean, ajma'in, solar. My thoughts on astral projection. What is astral projection? If you could enlighten me. What is astral projection? And then I can perhaps share my thoughts on that. And I open up the floor if anybody wants to come up. I'm not doing a monologue or anything. I'm going to be traveling in a few days, inshallah. So I might be offline for some time. And yeah, so I thought to just do a recap on the session we had a couple of weeks ago on this, and kind of because we didn't really have much time to discuss everything because it was very late. Again, we were on for like 2.5, 2 hours 50 minutes. I can't remember. It was very long. And we have contender number one. Assalamu alaikum, Shahid. Yeah, I joined a weird live. I didn't talk in it. I scrolled through and I came across this weird live and I was like, wait a minute, I recognize that picture. I was like, Shahid, what are you doing here? And there was a guy who was just going nuts against Islam, and then there was a guy who was, which was difficult to listen to because he was a super Quranist, right? He obviously said no hadith doesn't exist, it's all a scam, ma'adallah, all that kind of stuff. But what was difficult to listen to was not his claim or his argument or whatever that was, which in and of itself is flawed, but the style of speech. And I find that it's usually used in these kinds of debates where you try to speak in a very calm manner to try to win over the argument by remaining calm, and you're giving off the image that I have nothing to worry about. I'm going to let you speak, and I'm going to be in control of it. That I don't know if you picked up on that, Shahid, but it was he was using that style of speech, and if you're not if you're not paying attention, it comes off as if, well, this guy is, he's very calm, he's not panicking, and the other guy is screaming his head off, so this guy must be right because, he seems very sophisticated and eloquent. And it's I don't know, I just find that
It's an approach. It's an approach. But I just basically with the Quran I could have stayed with the Islamophobe and
yeah.
like his points. But when he started to speak with that demeanor, there's red flags everywhere. And I just said to you, be your religion and to be mine, because at the end of the day, I cannot sort of depict then and start understanding his standpoint and his interpretation of Islam based on his English
Yeah.
translated form, because he doesn't speak Arabic as well. And I
Right.
said to him, it's not deeply didn't go astray because of the misunderstanding of the Quran, And then he was like, tell me what the word salah is. And I thought, I can't take you back to class Islam 101 and start, try. This is not what I'm here
Oh yeah,
for.
I mean,
So then I just kind of just backed away.
yeah, I was in there for like a few minutes, and I was like, that's why I was like, all the power to you, Shahid. I'm out. I, it's too difficult, subhanallah.
So I was procrastinating. I'm supposed to have finished this form, and I was like, I did this yesterday. I went on another live yesterday momentarily because it's like anything to push me in a corner, so the adrenaline has to kick in to write what I need to write. When you just can't get in the zone, and it's like you just need the schedule to get a bit tighter,
I hear you.
for the sense of urgency to kick in, and you can get stuff done. So
Oh yeah, I operate like
I
that.
was completely procrastinating. Good times on TikTok here without you, Khalid. SubhanAllah, we need to like, I don't know, we need to build like lots of 5G towers to keep you online, and make sure none of your equipment breaks down, and I don't know.
Oh
I
no.
think we have to, Rahida, I think we need like the old CB radios, just in case the internet dies, so that we can still converse, so we
Oh
can
yeah.
we can still all chat somehow. SubhanAllah.
Barakallah
Yeah.
feekum. My apologies. I know I've been less online than I'd like to. Honestly, I've just been had a couple of family situations I had to tend to that took up a lot of time. And yesterday, to everybody here who's on the Telegram, I apologize. I know I announced yesterday that I was going to go live, but then bam. Like literally, I had my finger on the trigger and like, all right, I'm pulling the plug on this one. And it was literally last second I had to cancel. So my apologies for that. But I'm planning on traveling next week, inshallah, probably on the weekend. I'm going back to the States. I don't know, for a few weeks, maybe a month or so. So there, the good news is that I will have a lot more time to myself, and because of the time difference, I don't have to come on so late where everybody has to suffer through, burning the midnight oil. Um, so yeah, I should be more online, inshallah, so we can have more of these weird conversations.
Planes on this side of the water, then that's it.
Yeah.
Come on later. Go back in vampire mode, alhamdulillah.
But it is boiling over there, so I'm not really looking forward to it. I mean, Arizona's hell when it's June, July, August, and here it's still cold. I mean, I'm wearing a sweater today, and I'm like, whatever happened to global warming? I miss those days.
I know we can never plan anything in the United Kingdom. You can't plan a family picnic, a day out. You can't do anything that is you're reliant on good weather until it's last minute.
Yeah.
That's it. Because you never know. You never know. One minute, we're all struggling. We're opening windows to sleep because it's so stuffy and warm, and the next minute you leave the central heating on because you feel like you've gone back to the dead of winter
Oh yeah.
in the blink of an eye. It's interesting weather here.
It is. It is. And I can't wait for summer in the UK. So if I go to I'm going to the States, inshallah, but I probably won't be long so that I can come back and enjoy the summer here, and then I'll try to escape once again in the winter. I've been here for too long now, and it's not nice. It's too cold. عليكم السلام علينا ورحمة الله وبركاته. عليكم السلام زينة. They've tried. They've tried.
I know, as if we're going to have. That's right.
There
We might
were
get 3 days of sunshine. That's our summer, Khaled.
no. Come on, man. I mean, like, sorry. Come on. I mean, July, August. It's not bad.
July and August last year were worse. We
Oh,
And they've predicted that we're going to have 50 days of rain over our so-called summer this year. I'm not quite sure how they're predicting that unless they're manipulating it at the same time. So yeah, hopefully you'll get that 3 days of sunshine that may help your vitamin D levels.
oh yeah. But then you have to go put sunscreen on, remember? That's another
50 factor.
that's another something we should discuss one day. The scam of sunscreen. But anyways, yeah, so I know we didn't talk much last time, because it was like 1 in the morning, if I recall. And I don't intend to keep this live long either today. It's kind of just a quick one. Because today's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. If I'm gonna fly out Saturday, I don't think I'll be on until I'm stateside, inshallah. So maybe another week or so. So I was kind of doing a quick hello and then perhaps a drop off, but I wanted to kind of recap the law of attraction and the scam within on what we discussed last time. So if anybody would like to come up and speak and join Shahid on center stage, you're more than welcome to do so. But yeah, your thoughts on the whole thing, Shahid. I mean, where do you stand on that? What's your,
For me, anyway, the law of attraction, the yoga, the everything, it came with red flags without having to go down the deep research hole. And alhamdulillah, I don't need to now. You gave a good talk, you gave the evidences as well. So if I did at some point feel I needed to justify my feelings, I could do that without having to spend hours of my time in order to say to somebody else, this is why A, B, and C. But I think it's so easy nowadays for people to get so swallowed up in the, in the deceit, in the deception, shall we say. And I think it is very problematic. I think that, hidden shirk is the worst thing. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from it. And it would be so easy for us to slip and slide if we're not aware. And this is why I always say that if something feels wrong, then you should trust your own instincts on that. Because I do think when someone is sincere, I do think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us that guidance. And so, I've always been lucky in that sense. Alhamdulillah, I've been blessed that many things I haven't fallen foul of because of that. I know there's a thing that Umar used to say, the term farasa,
Mhm.
that some people have farasa. Yeah. So I feel that, alhamdulillah, with people in life and also with certain things and habits, regular habits, it's a good thing that I have had those feelings. But for anybody who is struggling and for anybody, who is swept up, because there's a lot of herbs, which is really
Oh yeah.
frightening that how many herbs are taken about, especially with the whole law of attraction thing as well. I used to be in a Saudi group, subhanallah, that were all speaking about this. And I was like, like how on earth, are you even entertaining this as something that you should be dabbling in? But unfortunately, it's widespread and widespread in places where we might not necessarily, have foreseen it coming, shall we say?
Yeah,
But
but
take that
that's
with you.
that's that's the interesting part. It's like if a Buddhist or a Hindu or whatever comes up to you and says, "Hey, go worship Buddha or the Hindu god or Shiva or whoever," as a Muslim, regardless of how the depth of knowledge one has in Islam, you just reject. Say no. Obviously, that's kufr. Out the window. Not interested. Leave me alone. But when it presents itself in such a nice package, because it usually, that's kind of what we talked about last time. It's presented to the world under three main realms, which is self-development, um, health in terms of natural therapy and homeopathic therapy and so forth, and then the third one is through physiology and exercise, which is the yoga aspect. So you're just doing some good stretches, and they're really good for your circulation, and they help the blood flow, and they help the back, and they help this and that. So you start doing you implement it in either one of or any one of these three avenues, and the work. I mean, they're all pretty bad, but the self development one is interesting because it creates a persona in your head. Because self development is needed, right? We need to always pursue the better version of ourselves and always improve upon in every aspect possible, whether it's religion, dunya, physical relationship, whatever the case is. Always try to be better. That should be the aspiration of every Muslim. But when you go down that route, Like if you talk about, learning to speak confidently and learning how to sell something and becoming a great salesman, and you start seeing the fruits of your labor come into existence, you're like, whoa, this is working. So you start to, well, I mean, perhaps for a weaker person, inshallah, no one here is that, but this can develop in someone's mind where it's like, I'm making this Thank you. I'm making this happen. I'm actually bringing about this change. I'm kind of in control here. I can dominate. And you go from one scenario to the other, and it's like, I'm winning, I'm winning, I'm winning. And so Shaitan, yani, messes around with the head a little bit, says, look what you're doing, man. You're making it happen. This is pretty cool. You're kind of creating this reality. And in a sense though, there is truth to this. In a sense. Yeah, and for example, everything that we see around us in terms of the physical world of man-made creations, man-made, not by Allah, in terms of like I don't know, a chair or a house or whatever, these all existed first in the mind. And then they were put onto paper, if there was planning done correctly, and then they were put into actual building. So you did create to some extent the reality that's around you, but you are not the creator of the reality. There is a difference. I mean, we do take actions, and so this is kind of where you go into a discussion of the what are they called? The predetermentalists, I believe, the ones who are fully qadr, like خلاص يعني because in the Islamic aqidah we have a mukhayyar wal musayyir, those who are given the option, so you have choice in how your life plays out, and then those who believe that I have no choice in what's to come, and so therefore I'm just going to exist, and whatever happens happens because it's all been written 50,000 years ago. And people, struggle with the balance between the two. And I heard somebody, I can't remember their name, and they kind of gave a good analogy as to try to understand this, because the reality is on the Aqidah side, we're kind of balanced between the two. That yes, we do take action, but yes, we do have predestination or qadr already written. And so the analogy kind of is, imagine you are going to jump into a pool and you're about to fall into the pool at the same time. And it's like both happened at the same time. You took action, but you were also falling, and they both just touched at the same time. And that's I kind of butchered that analogy, but the point is that they kind of both work in cahoots with each other. And so to some extent, we do create the reality around us, but that's obviously first and foremost by the will of Allah. So we don't have that superpower of just go creating out of Allah. That's not up to us. We are the creation. But we do have the ability to take action. Now, whether or not that action pays off is entirely up to Allah. But that's where we have al-asbab. So اتخذوا الأسباب, and take the necessary actions and precautions and etc. to kind of bring about this change into existence. And if you go down that road long enough without guide rails from the Islamic side to kind of keep you in the right direction, you fall off the side and you say, well, I'm making it happen. It's all me. And similar to perhaps on an extreme level, what Qarun said, and this is in the Quran. Qarun was the guy in Musa alayhi salam's time, where he came out with all of his wealth and he was super rich. I mean, his vaults were massive. He had so much money. He was a snitch basically. He worked for Pharaoh, but he hung out with the Israelites and he was kind of snitching on them, and he would get paid like that. So he was super super rich, and the people around him came up to him and said, "لا تفرح إن الله لا يحب الفرحين." Do not be happy. Indeed, God does not like those who are happy. I mean, that's if you translate it right off the bat, and that's an incorrect translation. And the idea, or the more correct way of understanding it is, do not be excessively happy in a sense that you believe that you did all this. And that's not correct, because we can't go into excessiveness in any emotion. We have to be balanced. And his response was, قَدْ أُوتِيتُهُ عَلَى عِلْمٍ مِّنْ عِنْدِي, if I recall the ayah correctly, that I got all this wealth and everything that I have by the knowledge that I have. So I created my reality, kind of. It's because of what I did that I got this. It's because of me that all this happened. And so then, God opened up the earth and it swallowed him and his house and the whole thing and the rest of the story. But I think that's, a very tricky realm that people fall into, the idea of self development and then taking things out of proportion and seeing themselves as creators of the reality, and so therefore creators of the reality. And this is where it becomes problematic.
As well, when people struggle to understand that cover as well, I always like to point out about time being creation, that Allah's not bound by creation as well. So when
Mm-hmm.
we see things in past, present, and future, when it comes to us making and doing things, whether something's written for us or not, just because Allah's knowledge is not bound within the creation of time in and of itself as well. I always kind of point that out because we are beings that are bound by that creation.
How should we respond to those Muslims who say they've tried it and it works? Tried what? Law of attraction? I'm not sure what you're referencing, Kryptonian. But yeah, no, Jazakumullah khair, Shahid. Indeed, subhanallah. And there was a point I wanted to make, but it slipped my mind with Kryptonian's comments. I forgot. Law of attraction. Oh, manifesting law. Yeah, I mean, to give you perhaps an attempt of a response to that, because there's quite a few ways to respond to that. But I mean, you have Christians or Hindus, any religion other than Islam, who call on to their deities or their gods, not Allah, and their prayers are seemingly answered. Does that mean that their religion is correct and we must disregard Islam? You know, does that point make sense? So, although something may work, this is also a test, right? So you could ma'adallah, like do something anti-Islamic, leave Islam, for example, and things seem to work out because Islam was such a burden. It made life so difficult. But the second you let go of Islam, the shackles of Islam, then life was so much nicer. You started getting money, you started having relationships, you started having friends and family and good times, and you're like, whoa, 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 what's going on? This seems to be working for me. This is again tricks. I mean, the tricks of the shaitan is so deceptive, it's so deceitful, and it's so subtle that it doesn't come out as just go do kufr. It's not just straight up like that. It would come out in a very subtle way that you start to slowly footsteps of the shaitan until he's fully taken you out of the realm of Islam. And so that can present itself in so many different ways. And one of them is this to show you that, well, look at those guys. I mean, you can look at right now without forget manifesting. Look at some non-Muslims who are super rich. For example, if that's the goal, right? Is the goal is to have financial greatness, let's say. You have non-Muslims. I mean, what are they? They're praying to a piece of wood, or they're praying to Jesus, alayhi salam, or they're praying to whoever they're praying to, or they're not praying, or they're atheist. And things seem to be going great for them. So what now? So just because you practice something and it works for some, that doesn't mean that it's correct. That's again, yani Islamically, if something works, that doesn't justify its usage. Because if it's haram, then it's haram. And that's the bottom line of it. You know. Alaykum assalam wa rahmatullah. Spiritually crippled. It is Sallallahu Islam. Wayakum Kryptonian, but I hope that point makes sense to you. Is that it doesn't matter if something may work, because again, Shaitan's also there. He's going to make sure that something does work that would contradict Islam, because it would raise doubt in somebody's mind and then in somebody's heart. And so this may give way to fulfilling the prophecy that there will come a time where a Muslim will sleep as a believer and wake up as a disbeliever, or vice versa. So that's kind of the trickery that one needs to be careful of. And you, Jazakumullah khair, Mana. Barakallah fikum. Thank you for that. But yeah, that's my 2 cents on that. Kryptonian. Is Rahida around? I have not heard from Rahida in a long time, and if you'd like to step up, you're more than welcome to do so.
She's been quiet.
She, she has been. She is. Yeah, everybody's noticing. Your silence is very loud, Rahida.
But I think as well, though, I think that as Muslims we should understand, like there's nothing wrong with having aspirations either and having goals that we want to achieve as long as they're realistic. We have tawakkul, but we also so there's nothing wrong, because people say, from the manifesting point of view, I'm a list person. My professor's always laughing at me because I'm always writing lists. I like to tick things off. I like to feel the achievement as I'm going down my list. And I used to have a lot of time goals and objectives, and then COVID hit and went out the window. I refuse to have any time goals and objectives now. I'm just living as it comes, but alhamdulillah. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with having aspirations if it's realistically within your grasp. But at the same time, whenever I have something maybe that I want to achieve or I want to do, I always have the caveat that's added to that, which is if it is good for me, Ya Allah, bring it close to me. But if it is not good for me, may you keep it far from me. Because as much as I love my mind palace and I love my trains of thoughts and things like this, it doesn't mean that I know what's best. You want what you want, I want what I want.
Exactly.
It's a lot.
You know,
Yeah, so
and that was one of the things with the manifesting scam that we talked about last time. It's like you sit there, it's like, I'm going to manifest, I don't know, a fancy house or a fancy car. And it's like, okay, then what? And then, okay, let's just forget the fact that it may or may not come into existence. You're sitting there manifesting it. and you think that that's the best thing that you need to make you complete and whole and happy, etc., etc. But then you're assuming that I know best. What happened to the concept of, or well, the belief of dua, of asking Allah yani, to give you what is good for you, and if it's bad, to keep it away from you? You're assuming here that you know the unseen, and I know that if I have this car, or this house, or this job, or this business, or this whatever, that this is going to work. And I know this for certain that I'm going to sit there and emit imaginary energy vibes into this imaginary ether in the metaphysical world to have the universe, not God, to have the universe respond and give me what I want because the universe is conspiring. This is what I find so illogical. I mean, there's so many points, but what do you mean the universe is, why is the universe conspiring? It's just sitting there, it's like, oh, please, man, look, I really want to give you everything, but you need to work with me here. You kind of need to open up your chakras and you need to go sit in the swordfish position so that I can give you what you want. Why? Where did, I mean, any, where did you come up with this? And why are people just falling for, I mean, come on, man, like, uh, anyway,
I know,
there's,
and people, so many sleepwalk into it. Wish for that Lamborghini, my friend. Maybe you put that tomorrow in a car accident within said Lamborghini. It's, I don't know why people forget Allah when it comes to fulfilling their desires in this dunya. For such a short space of time. Of course, we all have wants and desires. There are certain things that make our lives a little bit easier, shall we say, and there are things that give us like a lift. If something in our lives that is of benefit. But when it comes to these incredulous things, and there's so many, and it's not even just with the Eastern philosophy side of things. There's so many of, especially across America, where it's like come to our, to our seminar on how to
oh
be
yeah,
successful. That's such a big industry, and I feel so sorry. I mean, there are some good things that see that, just from a psychological support network, that sometimes people just need to hear the right thing, in the right time. And I
definitely.
get that. But then it's the way that the advantage is taken of it so much, and then when you're bombarded with these, no, you need to come to this, you need to pay this amount because we're going to make you successful, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. It's a shame because there are many people in this world that are, that I don't want to, IQ levels are not particularly high, and I don't mean that in a derogative sense. And I think that's because of the way in which we've evolved in today's society, because everything's done for you. You don't have to worry about growing your crops so you can feed your family next year because you're going to go down to Asda or to Tesco's or to it's all there. You don't need to think about things anymore. You can read them. You're just taught by this educational system to parrot repeat all these facts, and that's the yardstick by which your intelligence is going to be measured. And I just think that it makes people very unrealistic, not have no resilience whatsoever. They don't even have inbuilt safeguards of what, to most of us would be like, oh, that's a red flag, like stay away from that, that's a bit dangerous. And I don't know, it's a shame, but what can we do? Except to come off grid ourselves because otherwise we're in the madhouse with the crazies, and I don't know for how long, I can manage
Well,
to
here's
get
the
such
thing though.
society change.
You're you're respectfully, you're entirely wrong because you don't need to learn how to grow your crops. If you can manifest a really good
Oh yeah,
orange tree or I don't know, some fruit to just show up in front of you, why not do that? I mean, manifesting is real, right? All you have to do is send out positive vibes, and this universe, this body, or whatever it is going to respond. It's just going to give you the fruits. I mean, you might as well manifest like a decent halal burger. If you, I mean, get a nice, good meal going. If you, why do you have to make it so complicated? Why do you have to like manifest a Lamborghini? Let's just start with something small. Let's get a nice meal, manifest a good movie, sit there and just manifest your way through life as you float around. يعني سبحان الله people الله أعلم بس it's more of a passive victimology. I don't want to do the work. Here's an easy way out. You can have all these riches in life if you just sit there and think. You don't even, no, actually don't think because meditation is the opposite of thinking. Meditation is just sit there and empty your mind. So just do nothing and just be a zombie and shut your mind down entirely and things will just work for you. If
And it's
if you
just
go to a child and tell them to do that, They all say, okay, why are you trying to scam me, man? Like a child will say, what are you trying to do? Why are you trying to trick me? That's so evil. So it's like, and adults accept that.
And it's who's to say that what things are valuable in this life as well? Because with phonetics and with the advertising industry, everybody is sold what is supposed to be the best thing. For me, if you were to ask me to put on a list what are the most treasured things that you own or that you have, it's my eyesight, pen and paper. Don't take those things away from me. And I'm happy. That's it. As long as I can read, as long as I can write, as long as I can draw, as long as I can do all those things, for me, they're invaluable against self-encrusted thing. I don't know. I don't know. It's not my world. I see it every now and then, but it's not. These are things that I put massive value on, and it's a shame because, and I do think, and I really do think there is issue with that in that Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that the fitna would reach every home, and I see that's the television channels because the ramping up of fitna since the creation of the television to be able to beam into the privacy of people's own homes. This is what Mrs. Jones needs this week. This
Mm.
is the perfect nuclear family. This is the perfect existence. And everyone's absorbed this, when in reality, if you're only here for a short time, you're all going immigrating the same way. What is important and what isn't important. It's quite sad, and that doesn't mean that we live sad lives and we can't appreciate. I love this film. I love, things, some things within my life. It's not that I sit here and I look like Scary Mary and I don't buy anything. No, of course I do buy things, but they're not, it's not to the extreme and it's not extravagant and it's for practical means. It's not for, I absolutely cringe. A member of my family tells me I've just paid, £400 for a trainer, for a pair of trainers. Why? Because it's got a name on it? Because it's got a certain, colour on it? No thanks, I would never do that. It's like, as long as it keeps my feet dry, that's it, it's done
You
its
need
job.
to,
But it's a shame that it's become a programmed industry where it's dumb down the populace, make the people be dumb, make them not believe that they have the power. So this 1% can treat you all like cannon fodder, herd you all when they need to, and make you all distracted and fight amongst yourselves over things that really have no emphasis on you leaving your next generation and the next one. It's just
well said. I think you should talk to said member of family and just teach them how to manifest those trainers. They get them for free. Rahida, salam alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. It's been a very long time.
Yeah. I agree with everything you're saying. You both said some really, really good points.
Yeah, you
If
better.
I was going if I was going to add anything, I would just say I agree that, meditation is a scam because, you said before how the opposite of that would be contemplation, which is
Hmm.
kind of what the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, did. And I read recently that personality is like a state of tension. And so it's like it's an active process, a thing that you have to actively work at. And, there is a saying of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. I don't remember exactly, but essentially it was just like the Muslims should try and
We lost Rahida. We should try and what? Finish the sentence. Kryptonian, you're no, you're right. Sorry, by the way. Your name is so familiar. I mean, I'm not talking about Superman, although um, never mind. But I have I seen you on a live somewhere talking about flat Earth, or am I thinking of somebody else? I can't remember if it were you or if it was you or not. Is zikr not a form of meditation? Dhikr is, yes. Well, no, sorry, not meditation, contemplation. Difference. Dhikr is not a form of meditation, no. Because by definition, meditation is to free your mind and empty your mind and focus on this one thing and so forth. No, it's contemplation, worship of Allah. Because when you're doing the dhikr, you're not meant to just say subhanallah, subhanallah like a 10,000 times and you float away and do things. You're meant to focus on what it is you are saying. There is quality in what you're saying rather than quantity. And that's where we have tadabbur, which is contemplation. To have tadabbur on the ayat, to have tadabbur on the dhikr, to have tadabbur on whatever Islamic thing is we're trying to learn or read. And that tadabbur is very different than meditation. And so, no, dhikr is not, wallah alam, but dhikr is not meditation, it is contemplation. Let me know when you're back, Rahida, because you disappeared. No?
I don't know what happened.
No worries. I was interviewing Kryptonian to see if he'd like to join my Flat Earth Club, but he said no. Carry on.
Never. It's crazy. Maybe soon, inshallah. Who knows? But yeah, I don't know where I stopped, but I was just trying to say that as Muslims we should basically try and like all of the qualities of Allah we should try and He's the most merciful. We should try and be merciful because we're His slaves, and so we should try and it's an example basically of what's right, what's moral, what's because obviously Allah is the ultimate reality.
Mhm.
But my point is really just they try and make us, like you said, zombies. And sorry, I've lost my train of thought.
That's all right. We're zombies. I'm with you. I'm not with you because I am a zombie, so I have no idea what you're on about. Just joking. Let me know when it comes back to you.
Yeah, oh yeah. I was saying personality is a state of tension. So literally the opposite of what they're trying to tell us to do is what we're supposed to do. But it's easy to like fall into that state of just being a zombie, into just because everything that society tells us to do is very individualistic.
Right.
And so it's like it's kind of a paradox because in one sense everything is like catered towards being, as the individual focusing on yourself and expressing yourself, but then also society is constantly dictating what that self should look like,
Mm.
and there's a mold, and that mold is contrary to what we as Muslims should aspire to be, and that mold is honestly it's incredibly rigid, and it's ironic because obviously they'll say it's very inclusive and it's all about inclusivity, but there's a very set basically, and all of those things like yoga, veganism, all of those things, which is like making halal haram, shirk, and all of these things, they're part of the mold of what they want us to embrace. And it's easy to fall into those things because it's it's like because it's the opposite of that state of tension, which is like you have to constantly like to be in a state of discipline, you have to negate your desires, you have to actively oppose the waswas and these desires and just work hard. Like it's harder to do good than it is to like when you're succumbing to evil, especially when the whole society is in that like state. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm having mixed thoughts about what you're saying. Not that I disagree necessarily. I'm just so you said something about that we are inherently individualized, I suppose, by the deliberate attack on society to make us, and that's true. However, I would say that's true in certain areas, in terms of selfishness and materialism, sure. But in terms of control, we have the mass. What was it called? Herd mentality, and you have kind of we have collectivism on that side. So it's like everybody just follow suit and do this one thing all together. You must all go through the same cycle, through the same system to be mass produced. And if you're mass produced, you're more predictable. And if you're more predictable, you're more easily controlled. And that's like on a whole level. On an individual basis, sure, yeah, there is individualism that's promoted, And it's the thing is it's a bit of a, I think it's promoted, but it's also self-created. And I don't know again which one came first. This is just me sharing thoughts. I haven't really thought this through. And the reason I say that is because, yeah, it's promoted to break up societies by breaking up families, by focusing on selfishness and materialism, etc., etc., that whole thing. But it's also self-created because that reality exists. And so if you go down the street, you don't trust the next guy or the next person, the person next to you. So it's like there is no sense of community. There is a sense of it's me, and then there's this other person, and it's not. There's no we, and people may unite under certain pretenses. So, for example, a football match, everybody like you can walk when the football season is in, and some guy's wearing I don't know Manchester United or Arsenal, whatever football club or team there is, and another guy's wearing the same jersey. He's like everybody's oh yeah, we're kind of like part of this inside club. It's like oh you're also a Manchester United fan, me too. We can be friends. But then that friendship is very superficial because what united us was this one aspect. And outside of that, we may have very differing and opposing views on just about everything in life. The Deen, though, doesn't do that. The Deen, like what's really cool, for the most part, I mean, obviously there's certain pockets in certain areas where people are very, they adopt the Deen in a very odd, strange way. That's kind of contradictory to mainstream Islam, right? The standard Aqidah, they just go into like weird sects and so forth. But generally, you can go anywhere, and if you see another Muslim, like you kind of know, it's like we're both La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. We know how to pray. We know the Quran. Like we have an understanding of each other, and we have a certain moral code that we both abide by, provided we are both decent Muslims. I'm not saying to be a super mufti, nor am I saying to be the zero Muslim, like just a decent Muslim, and which is pretty interesting. And we could relate on so many topics, me and a complete random stranger, just because the fact that we are both Ummat La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, which is very cool. But every other aspect outside of that deen is very limited in its grasp of uniting people. So you'd have everybody united. Oh yeah, for example, my kids are all homeschooled, right? And when we go to these, well, my wife mainly, but I've sometimes tagged along to kind of explore. When they go to these homeschooling get-togethers, not everybody there is there for the same reason. Yeah, and for us, it's more of anti-matrix, anti-system, and my stance on the whole homeschooling operation. But a lot of people are there for different reasons. Some people are there because their child has a difficulty, mental or physical or otherwise, subhanallah, or they whatever reason they have, but it's not necessarily aligned with the whole matrix thing. So when we go there, and then some people they are, and some people they're like, oh no, the matrix, and I don't want to put my kids in the system, etc., etc. I don't want to go to the schooling system. Great, but then when we go beyond that, it's like, whoa, hang on, this guy's like pro ABCD, and I'm against ABCD, and it's like these are like fundamental things, and you're not united on all these aspects. My point is that there is a sense of collectivism, but it's fake and false, and that's where it usually gets pushed out. So, like for example, in the States, they're very famous for this. They always create a boogeyman. I mean, the West generally, but the States is quite famous. They'll create a boogeyman through certain events that we've seen in the past over the last 2 decades, and then that boogeyman helps unite the Americans. We stand together against this ghost or this bad guy or this imaginary whatever it is that's out there, and that way you can create a sense of unity. But then beyond that, you know, superficial fabric is just nothing. It's empty because there's no essence to that union, and that's where the deen comes in. And if you don't have that, then you're just faking it, kind of, and you're just kind of going along until something keeps you apart. And I kind of went on like 12 tangents there. But before I forget, there was a guy who jumped in whose name was AB 1996, and he said, Salam alaikum, alaikum assalam. You requested to come up. I didn't approve it just because I don't know you. So if you'd like to drop a comment, let me know what you're up about, what you're on about, and I'm more than happy to bring you up, inshallah. But yeah, back to you, Rahida, and alaikum assalam, fanatics. Sorry about that.
Assalamu alaikum, fanatics. I agree with you. And the point I was trying to get at in terms of individualism is I like how you said it's like that's not what you said exactly, but yeah, I like that describing it because I think that's kind of what I was trying to explain with individualism as well. Like on a macro level, I think we have these philosophies and these ways of government that kind of like democracy that kind of of empowering the people and giving sovereignty to the people.
Hmm.
And the truth is that it's an illusion, like it's a scam. It's not real. It's not concrete, and it's only really when you're like grounded on the foundation of Islam that you can then have that completeness to yourself and to because obviously then yourself is grounded in reality, not what society kind of tries to define, like the illusion that society tries to present of you being an individual, like a sovereign individual.
Kind of. I'm picking it up as you're putting it down. So yeah, I can see your point. I
Because
mean,
with democracy, obviously, like
well, democracy,
yeah, go ahead.
I don't believe in. I believe that that whole facade is a, I mean, it's a facade. It's a scam.
Yeah,
You're giving people the illusion of choice. Here's two bad guys. Which one do you want to vote for? It's like, okay. um, and so, I
but
mean, we had
people
this
are trying to
discussion
base
with,
their whole identities around that.
sorry?
Like I'm saying, but people like with the choices that are available
Yeah,
under
you're Biden or Trump,
democracy.
or I don't know who the guys are here, Rishi and the other guy. It's like, really, I mean, it's to hopefully we are, but I don't mean this in a pompous way, but to someone who's slightly intelligent, this is insulting. It's like this is the system that you want to come up with, you know, Abe, yeah, respect somebody's intelligence with this little scam that you're trying to pull. So yeah, I don't necessarily subscribe to the whole democracy thing at all. I I would argue that I believe it exists in a sense. Yeah, the voting system and all that scam works on a local level. I don't know about the UK. Again, I don't know the hierarchy of how governments operate here. I know that there's councils and I don't know what's after a council. But like in the States, you have you have your local government. So in terms of your little city, and then you have the state, and then you have the federal and so forth. So that one's a little more. I can relate to that one a little more. And with the local, I mean, yeah, people mainly know each other, so there is a little voting system, like who's going to be the superintendent of the school or who's going to be the town mayor or whatever. Yeah, they can kind of do their little democracy and their little vote, and great. I mean, obviously, there's going to be some manipulation in politics. That's kind of standard, but for the most part, I believe that that system can serve its purpose as it's meant to, from how it's portrayed to the people. But on a larger scale, to tell me that the ruler of the free world, be it America or the UK or any of these first world dominant countries in the world, is going to be decided upon by random Joe in Kansas because, well, you know, Biden kissed too many babies. And that struck a chord with me emotionally. And he seems like a very decent guy. Or Trump, you know, he stands there and he tells it how it is. And he's really against the rich white man. And so he's a, you know, he's a man of the people because he said two or three things. I have no idea about internal affairs. I don't know anything about external foreign ministries. I don't know about foreign politics. I don't understand the way politics works. I don't know anything. But he kissed a baby. So he's got my vote. And that random vote by random Joe who has zero idea about politics on global scales or even local scales is going to tip the scales in terms of who's going to run the world. I find that illogical, strongly, because power does not rest on the idea of luck. It works more on strategy. And if you're at that level, Allahu Alam, if you're at that level of orchestrating the power structure for the world, you don't leave it up to chance. You need to make sure you know what the next step is over the next 5, 10, 20 years, or however long it is. And so they plan as best they can. Now, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. وَيَمْكُرُونَ وَيَمْكُرُ اللَّهُ وَاللَّهُ خَيْرُ الْمَاكِرِينَ. But they plan. So I don't see it in any other way. And I could be wrong, but this is my entire belief system on that. And I'm going to pause that for a second because there was a person, I think Nas was asking, um, is the law of attraction haram? It's not my place to say if something is haram or halal. I'm not a mufti. I can tell you what I believe, and I believe you'd have to research this and get it from like a real sheikh. That I believe that it's haram, and without going into the Islamic side of things, just look into the origins of the law of attraction. And once you look into that, it should become abundantly clear abundantly, pun intended, because law of abundance, abundantly clear to you that this is demonic, and so therefore it is anti-religion, anti-Islam, but still anti all religions. I mean, all the monotheistic religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. But what matters to us is Islam, and it's anti that. I mean, you even have uh, preachers or priests who say that the law of attraction is demonic and it's anti-biblical. I mean, but that's them. You don't have to take that. Great. But on the Islamic side, um, sorry, I'm just getting like a million notifications on my phone. But on the Islamic side, yeah, I personally believe that, yeah, law of attraction is a scam. It's haram. It's against the concept of qadr. It's against the concept of Allah is the khaliq. Allah is the creator of the asbab. Allah is the one who gives. Allah is the one who takes. You believe that you know best for you, and you believe that you can bring into existence whatever your mind thinks of, whatever you can cook up in your mind by manifesting it, by dealing with energies in this unseen world, alim al ghaib, the world of the unseen, who is only the knowledge of which is only with Allah and nobody else, no matter what they preach or say or sing or dance, it doesn't matter. And so the whole thing is a scam. And it preys upon those who are vulnerable in three main areas, among others, but these are the three main ones: finance, health, and relationships. And so, whenever you find a weakness or a shortcoming in those, we tend to look for answers. And if we don't understand our deen as well as we should, we tend to listen to those who can present a philosophy or a teaching or a practice in a very eloquent manner that has gathered a large crowd of people who seem to give it the thumbs up and say, this thing works, man. It worked for me. I read this book and boom, I got a Lamborghini outside. I mean, I just had to sit there and think about it. And if you think about it actually for just take a few minutes and think about it logically, you'll find that the whole thing is illogical, doesn't make any sense. It's contradictory to basic fitrah. If you think about it religiously, you'll find that it's contradictory to the deen. And if you think about it from its own origins, you will find that it is demonic and it's a scam. So, in every aspect possible, no matter how you try to approach this, you will find that it is flawed and it's a scam and it's a lie and it's there to trick people and take advantage of many. Subhanallah. And so, the short answer, yeah, I believe it's haram. But I kind of wanted to, give you clarity on as to why I believe that's the case.
The whole thing kind of feels like, inviting people to,
A cult.
yeah, that. But it also feels like, because Allah is the one who says be, and it is, and it feels like it's asking us to believe that we
Exactly.
can also will things to just be, and then they will be. Like, yes, we can create things, but we create things based off of what Allah has created. Like He has laid the foundation for all of what we could create, will create, And so it's like, how are people thinking that things are just going to pop into existence? It doesn't make sense. And deep down, I feel like everyone knows that it doesn't make sense because we all are on. I mean, I hope we are all aware of like our obvious limitations because we are audience. And so it's I don't know. It's very strange to just attribute more power to the self than is
Well,
necessary.
that's
Than
kind
is
of shaitan working his little tricks.
yeah.
Plus, again, the inherent weakness that we have and the lack of understanding of the deen. Put all those together, and you've got the ideal, phenomenal recipe for disaster. And Nas is asking, what do I do now? Burn the book. There you go. Have a campfire. Same wavelengths, Shahid. I think we're sending vibes to each other, and we're manifesting. Uh, and toast halal marshmallows. There you go. But yeah, me personally, I'd recommend get rid of that book. It's a scam. Don't even. I mean, in one sense, you should read it to understand the scam, but in the other sense, I mean, you have to take into consideration masalih and mafasid, which is uh, the good and the bad, kind of, making a decision based on does the good outweigh the bad? And I would just say just steer clear of that book because of its origins. Without reading the book, look into the origins of the book, and then you'll know that this book should not be read. That's what I would recommend. What book? The Secret by Rhonda Byron. And the documentary. The whole thing's a scam. Like it's I don't know, it's fascinating. It's like, okay, you want a tree. What's the first thing you do? Ask a child who understands the basic. I mean, without even no school, forgetting the child walks around the park and the forest. He sees trees and he sees a plant and he sees it germinate and grow and then it forms leaves and you tell a child, well, I want to see a plant in the living room. So okay, let's go get a seed. You say, no, no, no. I just want to see a plant. Like you gotta اتخذ الأسباب. You gotta do the thing first. No, no, just think about it. So Yeah, the whole thing is a scam. But yeah, for somebody who's asking the full thing, yeah, the live, the full live will be on YouTube inshallah by tomorrow. I think I have to message and confirm. I don't know what time they're releasing it, but I think it'll be on tomorrow inshallah, which was like 2.5 hours long. So if you can soldier through it, inshallah, it's of benefit. If not, then I tried. It is a little long. It's long-winded. I gave a lot of warnings about that because I tried to address whatever I could find on it from Western and Eastern traditions to make it abundantly clear the origins of this and how satanic and demonic it is. Speaking of Satanism and demonic and all these kinds of things, this is off topic slightly, but I came across this video the other day talking about a famous song called Hotel California by the band the Eagles. I think this was in the 80s or something, and they were talking about Aleister Crowley. I don't know if anybody knows this guy. Um, he was a very famous Satanist. He's from my hometown, so he's from Inverness, up in Scotland, and I think he lived on Loch Ness itself. So this Joker died in 1915, 1920, but he was like a super heavy duty. Was it 20s or who am I thinking of? No, he had another student, Lex something, some bald Satanist. I can't remember his name. And there was this whole thing about Hotel California, the song, the lyrics of the song being demonic in a sense. We have not had that spirit here since 1969, and that spirit they're referencing Jesus alayhi salam. There was a whole thing there, and it got me thinking. Because I've heard a lot, and I have looked into this before, but I haven't done so recently. So if anybody here knows more, then please do share the idea of the satanic, demonic nature of certain songs through not through the outright lyrics where they're oh Satan is I worship, none of that. I'm talking about when it's very subtle and they're using cryptic language and certain words. And I know UK1 Dean, I don't know if she's on right now, but she's always talking about English and spelling, and they use certain words to cast spells and stuff. And I don't know much about that realm of using words to cast spells in English. I don't necessarily agree with it or disagree with it. Again, I have not looked into it as much as I'd like to, but that's something I came across, and a bit of a random thought, I suppose.
I know they do things like backmasking, where you play certain songs backwards and it's like a completely different messaging. It has like
Parsons.
usually like overt like praise of the devil or things like that. And then I've heard
Yeah,
as well some people say something to do with frequencies. I've also heard people saying there was a I can't remember her name, Lena Leve or something. I heard in an interview she said something that might not be her name, but something similar. She said something about how they also sometimes like the purpose of music is to deviate people from God, I think. She didn't say it in those words, but it was something like that. And I've heard people also saying things about how they like do rituals on songs, like
yeah.
in the
I've
release
heard that.
parties and things like that.
They'll actually get together. I watched this thing a while ago. I need to find that video. Again, I don't know how legit it is because I haven't done my research into it. I just watched a few snippets here and there. But this guy from Hollywood, who's a music publisher or whatever they're called, those guys who put out the records, and he was saying that there's certain records, if they wanted to be an A-list record and they wanted to, hit the top MTV, whatever the top lists, then they take that record into a room and they chant certain rituals and do certain things over that record to kind of like, give it a little spice and stuff that the demons kind of, make it successful and make it famous by doing these things. Again, I have to verify this. I don't know, but I did come across a few of these things. Salam, Nur. How are you, bud? But yeah, it's an interesting topic, and I wanted to go into it because I wanted to understand. I mean, if I could, other than if it's haram, yeah, سمعنا وأطعنا, great, and I'm with that. Music is haram, سمعنا وأطعنا. There's no argument there. But if there was one explanation as to why, I mean, there's many, but if there was one in terms of you know, how we talk about Matrix and the globalists and all that kind of stuff, if there was an agenda on their side through music to manipulate the minds, and I believe there is. I don't have substantial proof to back this, but it's a gut feeling that there is some sort of a scam going on there. And it's not just music to, because you can see music in a certain way. Obviously it affects societies and it changes people's perception of reality, and so you can see as generations evolve and change that they start adapting their ways of lives into, and you can see the degradation of society over the last several decades, and a lot of that's not necessarily from music alone, but that played a heavy role. I mean, you can see the evolution of the music genres over from, let's say, the 20s and the 30s, where perhaps it was seemingly more innocent and more genuine, as it evolved slowly into more demonic and negative, um, with all the other aspects in between. And you can see that especially through the 60s was disgusting. And then you get the 70s, the 80s with all the rocks and the punk rock and all that kind of stuff. And it changed the way people dressed, the way they acted, the way they spoke. And then that kind of grew into something bigger and it became accepted. And so I'd like to see if this is true and to what extent it's true that there is a demonic intervention with all the music records that get pushed out, especially the ones by, I mean, not these little random Joes and Schmoes with a microphone singing their garbage, but the famous ones, you know, what's that girl called? The one that everybody likes, who's really
That's
annoying.
pronunciation.
What's her name?
Because that's even worse. The Arab music, the Nancy Ajams are even worse than
Yeah, the Nancy
the.
Ajrams, is the Habibi music.
But no, I think there's a big thing to be said about the music.
Taylor
Obviously,
Swift.
you go back centuries, Johann Bach, and all these things that it was all about. You could say that about
Right.
music, it was relaxing, it was this, it was that. But then when you look from the 1950s onwards, with the
Hmm.
change and the creation of the word teenager, and the way in which their normative values became socially acceptable, we
Right.
can see there's been a massive slide. And then even more so, like you said, like with the 60s to 70s, but then you get to the 80s and you get MTV and you get the music videos that go along with the music as well. And you
Oh,
can
yeah.
see the slide in debauchery and hedonism, to the point that now, subhanAllah, it does change a way that a person does think and feel. I mean, I can appreciate music and I can appreciate, good lyrics of a song like a poetry. I can dip in and out. I'm not going to be the haram police and say, don't do this, don't do that. There is a difference of opinion as well as to whether you can do certain things, alhamdulillah. Anything that takes your time away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala indulgently is a bad thing. Whether that's namima, whether that's music, whether that's playing on a video game, whatever it is, whatever you're doing to an extreme that's taking you away from remembrance of Allah, it's not great. We can all agree on that at least. But no, I think there's a massive thing to be said about the music industry, especially with the creation of MTV. As I said, it goes back to that fitna of the television channels, whereby normative values have changed so drastically. It's quite frightening.
Shahid, if I didn't know any better, I would suggest strongly that you apply for a job as a TV promoter for Samsung or LG. I'm sure you'd get like $1 billion in sales. Uh, because of how much you hate TVs. It's fascinating.
When Rahita, when you spoke before about, the trials and tribulations of being in a society that is so difficult, is for me, my home has been my fortress, and I'm so grateful that I'm not married and that I have to go out there all the time and intervene. I
What
don't
are you
have
trying to
any
say here,
chance.
okay?
No, alhamdulillah, I don't have to go to the masjid. I can pray in my home. Alhamdulillah, my home's my fortress. I don't need to come close to fitna in that sense, mashallah. And I found great solace in that. I would like an underground bunker somewhere with a few Highlander cattle and some sheep, and I can manifest that maybe one day. I'd like to live off grid. But obviously, real world scenarios, the majority of us, we have to cope within the society. And for me, it's just about keeping that home, my oasis, in this desert of absolute fitna is really, I can't understand these women that want to go out all the time, go to the mall, go here, go there, and I'm like, that's my worst nightmare. That's why my real social circle is so small, so that I'm not put upon by others to say, oh, would you, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? Do you want an invitation here, an invitation who've known me for many years and my really close friends know that I like to be in my cave, and unless there's a real good reason, I'm not moving out of my cave. You can all lose your heads, I'm going to keep mine. But I would say the biggest thing, the it's that television screen. I know LG hate me, I know Samsung hate me, and it's not, I do have television sets, don't get me wrong. I have televisions, but they're used on my time and they're used for things that I want to use them for, not on some programmed, schedule which is dictating my emotions and my values, based on what government levels think we should watch and soak up and take in.
Oh yeah, I hear you.
But music's another thing, Khalid. Music is definitely another thing. I love strong poetry. Mashallah, I saw a Scottish woman the other day. I liked her post. She'd done. She'd written a poem. It was about Palestine. It was about Gaza. Mashallah, absolute powerful, brilliant. Some people just have a way with words, and she's not Muslim. It's just pure raw feeling. Sometimes people can put things across. So when we look at music, tell me what is beneficial in that music. I could listen to Fairuz, from the Arabic side. Then show me
Hmm.
what is modern Arabic music now.
Yeah,
What's this business?
that's what I'm saying. There is an evolution to music, and well, a devolution, I suppose, if that's a correct word to use. It's gone downhill, and it's nasty, and it's disgusting, and I don't know. I'd like to explore that to understand the demonic, satanic intervention in that sense, and see what that will come up with, inshallah. But right now, well, not right now. I haven't actually done any. Well, I haven't done much work as much as I'd like to, just because I've been preoccupied. But inshallah, my next live is going to be a little different. What I plan on covering, inshallah, is the Western ideologies and the trying to see if I can put this in one sentence as I have not titled it yet. But it's Western ideologies imposing their moral compass on the rest of the world in terms of freedoms and liberty. So this would encompass things like LGBT, seeing that we are in a certain month that has been promoted in a certain way. I thought it would be somewhat befitting to try to understand why this has become so widely accepted. So, for example, when you say a certain group, whatever that group represents, has a right, when you say that word, you are saying that they have a right over you. Now, for somebody to have a right over you, there needs to be some discourse that takes place. That never took place. So if I say, Shahid, you have the right, I'm saying you have the right over me. We never talked about. So who assumed, and on what moral code did you use to implement this assumption, to pass this judgment that said person has right over other person? And that's where it gets really interesting, because that's not based on a God code like the Quran or the Sunnah. It's based on freedom, and that is morally bound because your freedom is restricted. And so then where do you draw the line on that restriction? And so there is no idea of freedom in the man-made world. It's an illusion. And so if there's a restriction, who's drawing that line if it's not God? And so then therefore there's corruption. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about, inshallah.
Mr. Smith may be interjecting at some point, maybe but how far back are you going to go with these Western ideologies?
I don't know,
We've
not
got
too much, but I thought it would be.
Imperialism.
No, no, no. I'm not going back 10,000 years. I don't know, maybe a couple of years. No, but just the yeah, within. I mean, I'm not going to go back to Lut alayhi salam's time, and that whole that's kind of that's a done deal. Um, but just the in the recent, I don't know, past couple of decades, the massive explosion of said ideology, and it's all love and it's not hate. And if you're not with it, then you're against it, and if you're against it, then you hate, and hate is bad, and so you are bad. And so there's this image that's created in society, and so you must accept, otherwise you're a bad guy.
As we discussed that, and we'll talk about that, we can already see, though, the downfall of said ideologies in transpiring in front of us. When I look at youth now, and obviously I lecture, a certain age group that aren't in my generation,
Right.
and I hear chatter and talk. When you see on the world stage absolute hypocrisy, when you see international law just taken and chose to take pick and choose as and when needed, when you see that the ICJ and the ICC have no power whatsoever in the reality before these generations' eye, idealistic standpoints when they can see the hypocrite
Well, that's. Hmm. There's so much to be said about that. That I got called a Zionist once with. I swear to God, I was on a Muslim live. This was months ago when Palestine thing kind of first kicked off, and I shared some unfavorable opinions, and I got called a Zionist.
yeah, I have a few of those. I also had the same kind of when I said things about the Syrian uprising as well.
Hmm. Oh yeah, I got the
The
same thing, and
Syrian
I'm like, I'm half Syrian. They're like, oh no, you're with that guy.
things.
I'm like, I'm
Oh
not.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not
So
with
we
that guy.
depended on
You
that.
need to understand that that Syrian thing is a scam and it's a lie. And it's like, no, 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 you're heartless. And I was like, okay.
Some people just can't see the wider perspective, though, and sometimes I used to question myself. Like, there's certain things that I want to say out loud now about the construction of certain groups and the creation of, boogeymen in order
Oh
to
yeah,
fulfill goals, shall we say, that are ongoing now. And you have to be so careful because I have to appreciate the fact that some audiences already not ready to
yeah.
hear certain truths, and it's not about individuals
Hmm.
within said groups. It's not about their intentions or their standpoint. It's more about the constructs and the frameworks of what's allowed, shall we say, to be in order to make further gains from that side of the fence that we would consider to be the bad guy.
Definitely.
And some people just don't have. They're too emotional, and I'm an emotional person, but unfortunately, they're too emotional in their responses to hear what you're actually saying and to look deeper, to go down a few steps and peel away a few layers and think, oh, actually, yeah, I can see the logic in that. What they
Definitely.
want to say in the said box and not step outside, which is again, it's social control over the people. Is we'll put you in this category, we'll make you in this box. If you think outside of the said matrix, we're going to come down on you like a ton of bricks, or your own people will turn against you. And it's hard because some people really do. They're asleep with their eyes wide open.
Like, just a quick point on the Palestine thing. I won't go into too much because if we were to talk,
You never know who's listening.
yeah, but it's I don't want to alienate certain people because there's more good that can come rather than focus on this one point through other discussions, which is why there's certain topics that, as much as I'm an advocate for in terms of conspiracy, uh, I was talking to Shez and some other people. I was like, I don't know if I should speak about these things publicly because there's more important things that can be discussed rather than have dissension on smaller things. But just on that Palestine point, without going into the whole Palestine Israel thing, it's like what I found interesting is everybody's waiting for the ICJ's results. And what are they going to say? And who are they going to, who are they going to, what are they going to vote for? Or the United Nations. They're finally, who funds the United, I mean, and then, so you have people arguing, saying, oh, you know what? People are finally waking up to the West, and they're finally waking up to the lobbyists and the IPAC and the governments and their hypocrisy and their. I was like, oh yeah, you're waking up. Great. Who are you supporting right now? I mean, who are you waiting on to save the day? The United Nations, backed by who? Okay. Funded by who? Okay. So, and that's just one of these many bodies, these international bodies that are here to save the day and deliver justice to the world. Everybody's, oh, the ICJ is really going to stand with us, or Spain has put out an order, I think 2 weeks ago, saying that if any of the Israeli government officials land in our country, we're going to arrest them on site. Okay, or no, it wasn't any. It was the main Benjamin, whatever, the Netanyahu guy. If he shows up, we're going to arrest him. Okay, it's like, and now what? You want to celebrate that? Okay, great. We celebrate. Now what? It's like, yeah, and there's certain things that are done as a show, and when people accept them, it's insulting to the intelligence. It's like I know that this is a scam because these countries, again, yani you cannot but integrate the idea of conspiracy and the matrix and the hierarchy on how things work in the world. You don't have to be an expert, neither am I. I'm not saying I'm an expert, but there is something called just looking and trying to understand that 99.9%, except for like five countries, I believe, North Korea, Syria, Iran, and a couple of others, if I recall correctly. I might be wrong on that list, are all in debt to the same entity. The World Bank, the IMF, those groups, those gangs, they're up there. So they're pulling the strings, and the debtor is slave to the creditor. The one who gives out the money to the countries to run their policies in every aspect possible is the one who dictates those policies. I mean, you even have the famous quote from Rothschild, whatever his name was, the one for the UK, the one of the children. And he says, I don't care who runs the UK. I don't care who the king is. So long as I'm financing it, I decide what kind of goes down. And there's a famous quote, I'm paraphrasing it, I can't remember it, but that was the idea. And that's straight from that guy. It's a famous quote. It's not a conspiracy because that's the reality. And so when you say, well, the United Nations, it's funded mainly, its main contributor to its existence is the United States, who apparently is vetoing every. I mean, the whole thing is a facade and a charade and a charade. I can't even think of the word. It's a scam. It's
Savior's coming, and they're waking up to that. They're realizing that. You see, Taylor, the thing is, inherently, we have a
a
I, I,
farce.
I
Thank you.
don't want to use the analogy going back to TV, but like an aerial, we pick some signals between ourselves and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, we have this fitra, we are born upon it. And so many people, Joe Public, they know what they're seeing is fundamentally wrong. And so at first they look to their media
Yep.
outlets. What's the news saying? What's the government saying? Oh, what's the next level up? What's the international community saying?
Yep.
And it's starting to crumble now because the youth are starting to realize, hang on a minute, this is a stage, this is a farce. This in 2024, how is this happening if we have all these fail safes in place to make sure we're good human beings that don't harm and destroy each other? And so, it is beginning to crumble on the youth because they're not in a bubble anymore. Years ago, you had your local parish or diocese, you had whatever they put out, whatever statement they put out, and that was what you believed as being fact. And then in this country, we had the wonderful creation of the BBC, which is, a lovely propaganda tool for the masses. And then we've got a little bit of an international stage, but everybody still sits in little groups and little cliques, and who do I affiliate myself with? What do I identify as? There's so many strange things out there. It's quite frightening, but they all sit in these little groups, and nobody wants to get out of the group. And then we have this youth that have grown up, especially like I say, like I'd say I'm Gen X, just Gen X. I'm just in that
You
batch.
barely got
But
in there.
alhamdulillah. But then you have like Gen Z and you have the millennials and you have the alphas, and you can see there's so much difference between them because their environments have been different and their access to global views of general Joe public have been influenced, where you can go online and you're not necessarily watching somebody else's news channel, you're talking to somebody from that country, you're listening to how they think, how they feel, what's their opinions. That's never been the case. It certainly wasn't the case when we were children. We didn't even have mobile phones that we could go on and discuss. It was our own little micro communities, and now people have friends all over the world that they can say, well, if somebody says something about this country, they can think, well, hang on a minute, I have friends there. That's not the impression that I've got. So I'm not just going to automatically follow that idea that I'm being told the propaganda. It gets harder for them to feel the propaganda to be more. And I think that we're seeing that crumble. So I like the discussion of Western ideologies, especially seeing as there is an influx at the moment on TikTok of what our British values, especially with the elections coming up. And there are a certain group in this country that are paying far right crackpots to come online with Islamophobic mantras, chanting the same. It's very strange because what I have noticed as an observer is that they're saying the same thing. They're singing from the same song sheet, and
Yep.
believe me, these people, they're a sandwich short of a picnic. They haven't thought of this themselves. So where is this coming from? And this seems to be quite organised. So I think there is say, in narratives that are being pushed in our 6 week lead up to the puppet show, because it is a puppet show. It doesn't matter who is going to take over in British Parliament. Believe me, that 1% are still going to do everything that they wanted to do, regardless of what flag is being flown, what colours being flown.
Well,
It's
that's
like you said, it's a prison with invisible bars. Top civil servants don't lose their jobs. MI5, directors don't change position. MOD, security analysts don't change their positioning. And big CEOs in corporate companies, they don't, they do what they want anyway, regardless of who is in power. And they're all on a string. If they jump out of line, they'll soon be got rid of. If you're not our yes man, you're gone. So,
no, no, that's all there, and that's yani, to some extent, I agree with the idea that, well, I mean, definitely, I agree with the idea that the way this generation today perceive or understand or even receive the news from around the world through the different outlets that didn't exist in the past, that does play a crucial role in the understanding of what's going on. Although that is still to some extent manipulated from both sides, because there's always an agenda by somebody. I mean, you'll even have conspiracy people on our side of the scale, for example, who will sit and push a conspiracy for the sake of selling you something, right? It's like, oh, the sun, blah 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 blah, buy my pills. It's like, okay, so you're a bit disingenuous in that sense. So you do have those seemingly he- people who are heroes, who are representing the underdog side against the corporations and the governments and the media and those evil guys. But they themselves have their own agenda to fulfill. Now, this isn't everybody, but this does exist, and that cannot be disregarded entirely. That's one thing there. The other point that I'd like to share is that, again, this idea of being able to identify that the system is crumbling because something doesn't add up is great, but that's also seen as an individualized compartment among an intricate web of infinite compartments. That is the matrix. And people may be able to identify, hang on, why is America so gun ho about Israel? I mean, that's a little odd. Why is the UK so, Israel comes first? Why did all the Western countries just, side all of a sudden out of nowhere? What do you care about a foreign country? And so people are like, something's a little off there. They looked a bit into Zionism. Oh, it's a scam, Freemasons, or whatever you want to look into in that sense. And it's like, okay, yeah, I can see something there. And then they've identified that. And it's like, great, that's a good starting point. But there's also, yeah, if you can't identify, or at least try to identify some of the other ways, you still live in that because you've identified some truth, but that truth isn't enough for you to understand the entirety of the picture. Because then you'll have people who are still like, they'll understand this, that there is a global agenda that manipulates the media and presents one version of the truth of what's happening in Palestine. And all the governments are in cahoots with this. But then if you go to that same said person and you say, do you believe the same about COVID? And I'm just giving you an example. No, there's no way that everybody was in on this. Do you believe 9/11? No, there's no way that everybody, all the governments, all the media lied. But you're saying that here. And I'm with you. Yes, there's lies. I'm on your side to some extent. But you're picking and choosing to fit your narrative to make sense to you of what is real. And there's a problem there. And we're going to go into a very, very long conversation, and it's past midnight, and I may ruffle many feathers, not a few. Um, but the bottom line of what I can say is, in case there was any doubt out there, Allahumma ansur ikhwanana al-mustada'afina fi Palestine. May Allah grant them victory and grant them strength and patience and help them overcome their difficulty and the war that they're in, and give victory to the Muslims wherever they are. That's so if anyone is in doubt of what I'm trying to say, this is my stance, obviously, with Palestinian Muslims or any Muslim, wherever they are, so long as they are in the oppressed. And I know there's a hadith, help the oppressed and the oppressed, it's a separate conversation, but any Muslims who are in an oppressed position or difficulty, may Allah grant them ease and victory and reward them in this dunya and the akhirah. So that's my stance as a whole. So no one, because I got called a Zionist, I was like, you're a Zionist. I'm like, I'm a Zionist. Me, like, of all the people, I'm the Zionist. It's like, all right, buddy, there's a problem here. But I'm going to give closing comments to you guys because I got to wrap it up. I can feel my head spinning.
I just wanted to say to
Definitely.
Just because I see things with my eyes wide open doesn't mean that I feel defeated. I'm a Muslim, alhamdulillah. The Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam foretold what the time would be that we would be living in. And it's all going according to the plan. So I'm not losing my head. Alhamdulillah. So I'm wide open and I can see what is before me. I'm looking at the next life as well. Alhamdulillah. My time here is short. So I don't think, for those, I don't want to be Debbie Downer and say, you can't bring change. You can't. Of course you can make changes. Of course you can make differences. And you can do that in your own little microcommunity, starting with self and family. Alhamdulillah. And then if you can put feelers and filters out that can change a situation that's more beneficial within on a community level, alhamdulillah. But if you're asking me if we're not already on a Titanic that's sinking, then I'm not going to give you the fairy tale ending because I know the end times and how this is going to end. So I'm not going to say, that it's all going to be okay and we're all going to live happily ever after for generations to come. No, that's not the fitna of the world in which we live in, the fitna that we were warned, against by the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So I don't know how else, to put it. Layla, I'm less worried about Al-Aqsa. I've prayed in Al-Aqsa, alhamdulillah. Stone and bricks, it's not an issue to me. But real people being harmed, Muslims being harmed, anybody being harmed, even from a point of view of humanity. If we saw these things, what we're seeing now, regardless of who it was happening to, it's abhorrent. It's wrong. It shouldn't be happening. These are not combatants in uniform. These are women, children, men, women, innocent, just wanting to go about their daily lives the same as we do. That's it. So I don't know what the future's going to hold, and I'm with Khalid on this. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy upon those who are suffering hardship and oppression in this present time. Because this can be challenging. But one thing that I always, makes me feel, I don't want to say, it gives me hope in the fact that I know our dead, they're alive in their graves, inshallah ta'ala. They're going on somewhere else. And for me, because obviously Palestine is something close to my heart, my daughter's Palestinian, my husband Allah is Palestinian, his body's there now in Nablus, inshallah his grave is, still standing. I see a people who are resilient, I see a people who are strong, I see a people who, have a different mindset to the majority of us snowflakes that live in the West. That's what I'm going to say. They've lived this for many years. They've been raised on this. When you can watch school children walking to school whilst bullets are flying in the street, mashallah, it's not something I could have watched or had my children been. Not there. They are a hardened people. The issue I have as well, we have nationalism, it's not part of Islam, but these people are being oppressed, and all we can do is make our du'as. And I don't think wars are necessary, but there are some things that maybe some people don't want to hear. And if you ask me, do I think that the United Nations boots on the grounds are going to come and save these people? No. And look what happened last week. They used their so-called humanitarian via in order to Trojan horse, a refugee camp. I even we should never ever put our trust, in that these people are going to save us in that sense. If it was us in that situation, we put our trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Indeed, indeed. Yeah, no, for the record, I don't think I'm a Zionist. I may, I don't know, maybe one day I'll identify. No, I'm not a Zionist. I don't know. I got called, and that was by a Muslim on a Muslim live and a Muslim channel, and there was a lot of people, and I was like, okay. Um, but yeah, no, I hear you. Jazakumullah khair. May Allah grant them ease and victory, subhanAllah. But yeah, I don't know if it's a conversation that we should have because it will, I don't know. There's some things that are not worth talking about in a sense that it may bring more harm than good. And I don't know. My opinions are perhaps a little too controversial. And there's other things that can be approached, subhanAllah. But overall, I mean, we make dua, inshallah, things get easy for them. But jazakumullah khair for that, Shahid. Thank you. You agree that I'm a
Unless I,
Zionist?
yeah, of course. Someone asked in the comments if this was Shahad's channel, and I think it should be. We should get rid of the Zionists.
I
Sorry.
I'm at a loss for words. Okay, I've been called a Zionist, and I've been kicked. I've been what's the word? Mutiny. Okay, that's fine. You want to kick me out? I will never tell you the truth about flat Earth, Gog and Magog, the Dajjal. I know all. And I will not tell you about the law of attraction, manifestation, and meditation. I will not tell you about the liberal movements that are happening. I will not tell you about all these little secrets that you need to know. If I'm a Zionist, you kind of want me on your side because I'm spitting the truth, as the cool boys would say. And I'm laying out all the secrets, but you want to get rid of me? Fine. Stay in your darkness. No, I'm not a Shaykh, Gigi. Not at all, subhanAllah. Um, just sharing a few thoughts with
No,
everybody.
Shaz, don't worry. He'll be back. Inshallah.
I can't
I mean,
help it.
seriously
Oh,
though,
you
from
wait
your
and see. Barakallah feekum. Yeah, no, I'll be off. I'll be off next week, inshallah. Saturday. I think I haven't booked yet. I should book. I've been putting it off, but I think Saturday, and then maybe we can reconvene at some point next week, depending on how fast I recover from the travel. It's a long trip, and I can't be bothered, but we shall see, inshallah. But on that, it is 12:15, and this was supposed to be an hour live, but we've turned it into a 2 hour live because clearly it's not my live. This is not even my channel. I'm just a guest Zionist over here. So what do I have to say? Uh, but thank you, Rahida, for your very eloquent comment. On that note, I would
Wait, I
like.
have like one more thing to add though
Oh, you interrupted my goodbye comments. Go ahead.
before you. Sorry.
That's all right.
Just to add to what Shahad said, and to prove that she's not a defeatist, Allah says in the Quran that anyone who thinks that falsehood will overcome truth does not have like full faith in him. And so, like we're Muslims, we know, like as Shahad said, we know what's going to happen. We have a lot of details as to how it's going to happen as well. And so it's like we just have to make sure that we focus on ourselves and our families and our communities and try to just, yeah, we face reality and try to just promote and, embody the haqq as well as we can. And that will bring about what Allah has already decreed because He's decreed it, and so it will be. We just have to make sure that the parts that we play in what He has decreed, inshallah, will be beneficial to us on the day of judgment when we are held accountable. So basically, just make sure that our actions and contribution to what's going to happen are positive and are truth and not on the side of falsehood.
And I just need to say, Hannah, Jazakallah for your channel,
I saw
because
you.
otherwise,
I know where you would be. You would be
I
debating a
know exactly.
Quranist, and I saw that.
So yeah, don't be away too long.
Barakallah
So
fikum.
Manullah, safe travels, and inshallah next week
Inshallah.
early.
Yeah, it'll be a little earlier, obviously, because I'm going to be 8 hours behind you guys. So I'm going into the past. Shez, I might take a portal to get to Arizona and skip the flight. And by doing so, I will travel into the past. You guys will be in the future. There'll be an 8 hour difference, inshallah. So that would help. I can start earlier and do things perhaps more frequent and more often. But yeah, in my absence, try not to follow Shahid's footsteps. I found her, it's like, I'm just randomly flicking through, and then I'm like, okay, here's Shahid debating a Quranist and some sort of weird, I don't know what that person was, and then there was a Hadithi guy, and then there was a, I was like, wait, what's going on, man? I need to go live today urgently. I don't know what's going on.
You
Um,
couldn't have written a script for it, Rahida, really. And seriously, I cringed. I saw the Khalid's this little text saying, Salam alaikum. And I was like,
yeah, I caught you.
I don't think anybody to
She did. She got caught.
One time, I got
Oh,
red-handed. That's
Yeah.
I,
crazy.
I,
But then I found you play one thing, and I found that system much stronger. I found her in another live after that. You see, at the moment I'm writing up things, so I'm spending a lot of time at my desk, and I'm procrastinating a lot. So I'm just randomly putting on TikTok and scrolling, spending more screen time than I ever would in the strangest of situations, and quite obviously when the strangest of people are having debates as well. So
Mm-hmm.
I need to go back
Is
to
that what you're
TikTok.
telling yourself? I was just joking. It was so funny. Like I'm
Actually,
sitting there, I was just
I
freaking
walked
out.
into a bar. You couldn't write it. You couldn't write it. It literally, Rahida, it was someone from the HT group. It was a Quranist and it was an absolute Islamophobe. And the host just stepped aside to go and take somebody off. I knew the host, and I knew what his discussions were about, but he just left. And then I was like, this is chaos.
What's
I'm
a
stuck in
what's an HT group?
that. I don't want to say it out loud, but Mr. Bakari, the caterer, the band group, beginning with an M as well, in this country many years ago now. I don't want to cause trouble on your live.
Appreciate it. I'll try to figure it out.
Yeah,
But
yeah, you will find that group. And the other name of the group, and I think he's in Lebanon now. Omar Bakri got kicked out of Al Azhar and then he came over here as a
oh,
paid battler, and he, I think he's back in Lebanon now. I don't know. I don't
does the word in Arabic translate roughly to liberation in English?
Yeah,
Got it.
yeah,
Oh, those
yeah.
guys.
They're those sort of mindset people. I call them cave dwellers because that's what I actually think they are. It's like we'll create a war on terror by showing you,
Right.
we'll get people frazzled up and then we'll show you this is the fruits of these people we're telling you about.
Got it. Cool. So that's who you're debating. Okay, fine. I'll do more lives next week, inshallah. Uh,
inshallah. Because honestly, I understand where she's coming from. Like, I had to delete TikTok because
whoa, whoa, whoa.
you will be surprised at how much, like, I didn't even download it to join the lives, but you will be surprised at, like, how many just random, weird types of lives there are, especially, like, in the, like, Islamic section.
Hmm.
It's extremely strange. So much variety of like thought, and it's so like you almost feel compelled sometimes to join because it's like, what are they saying? Like they're
Yeah.
just spreading so much misguidance essentially, and it's hard to just like move away from that. So I completely understand, and I'm sure that Shahad was the voice of reason in that live. Right,
I trust she was, but I was literally on for a few minutes. I caught her, I called her out, and then I left.
But sometimes you just got to realize that you're talking to a brick wall and there's
yeah.
absolutely no point in speaking to people, and that's as I just said, I don't debate stupid. I can't start at class 101, and I just can't do that, which is why I just stepped away. But I've already told my daughter today, alhamdulillah, make a mess of the house, Habibti, tell me Joanny all the time, so I turn into Nigella in the kitchen, and I'm busy. I've got jobs to do in the house because because TikTok, when you've got idle hands and you're looking to procrastinate,
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I hear you on that.
Plus, we really do have to thank you, brother, for this, like your platform and your Telegram, because honestly, as someone like similar to Shahad who mostly stays at home, like sometimes you just like you need that like just a means for like
I'm just
socialization,
all I'm doing
and like
is.
stay in conversation. So alhamdulillah, like thank you
Oh,
for
you're
that,
welcome.
brother.
You're welcome. I mean, all I'm doing
It's
humbly is just trying to
very
convert you
good
to
experience.
Zionism.
Thank you.
Hmm? What was that?
Huh?
Nothing.
but definitely upload that. Definitely upload that recording as well because I plan to rewatch it and actually take notes. I enjoyed listening to it the first time round. I wanted to
The law of
express
attraction scam?
yeah, yeah. So, but I really do want to rewatch it and actually make some physical notes because I'm a this person. I'm someone that then I have my notes, and if I do need to refer somebody to certain points and evidences,
Oh yeah,
then I will.
inshallah.
So we'll keep it busy in your absence of traveling. Alhamdulillah. I'm looking for jobs. I'm looking for procrastination projects. So anybody
I'll give it to you.
else?
Honestly, it should be. I'll check, but I think it's going to be uploaded well, tomorrow, by tomorrow it should be on YouTube, inshallah. And if I get that link, I will take it and I'll share in the Telegram channel, so you don't have to go fishing for it. But yeah, inshallah, it's beneficial. And if you want to comb through it, by all means, and then message me your thoughts in the group. And if there's something that you'd like to discuss, I'd like to go into it a little more, because it's nasty. It's a scam, but there's a lot to it. And there's
I
like,
was gonna ask, like,
sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna ask, like, after that live, because same, I really do want to rewatch it as well. But I was gonna ask if you don't mind. I don't know if this is forward. If you would not mind sharing like your notes on Telegram or
That's
something.
cheating, Rahina. That's cheating. You have to make your own tracks to the band. That is cheating if you like.
I would
Now you get to write the notes, sister. Inshallah.
I can share them, but there's an emblem on all the pages of my secret Zionist organization, and so I'd be giving away too many secrets if you guys saw that. No,
No
I
problem,
can.
no problem.
Um, my notes are messy, like they're hella messy. I've got them all printed out, but they're on a. I'll look through them, and if there's something that's shareable, I'll share them across, inshallah. But it's very long, and it's kind of in my way to understand the flow. But if it makes sense to you, by all means, I mean, it's yours to take. um, but I
I'd
appreciate that's
appreciate
very
that.
kind of you to say. Sorry?
I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure, you just want to fact check me. I hear you. No worries, inshallah. So, on that note, I'm going to end this. For those of you who are here who don't know, there's a Telegram channel. Feel free to join it. It's free. There's no sell, there's no scam, there's nothing like that. We just take these discussions mainly offline and discuss them there. There's a whole group of mainly like minded people. And we have, for the most part, interesting discussions, alhamdulillah. And thank you all for joining. I don't think I'll be on for the next 3 4 days. Obviously, then traveling. So inshallah, I should be back next week. In the meantime, try not to stumble upon some weird debate and find yourself caught in a very awkward position, as some people on this panel have done so quite recently, without naming names, Shahid. Um, but thank you all for joining. It's been a pleasure, and alhamdulillah, and I'm glad you guys enjoy it. And thank you. I enjoy it perhaps just as much, if not more. I'm glad I have this community with you guys. So thank you for being a part of it. And on that note, thank you all for joining. Shez, thank you very much for modding. I did see some really weird comments earlier, but thank you for taking care of that. Alina as well, she jumped on, but I think she might have jumped off. But jazakumullah khair to everybody on this. And as always, barakallah fikum. Take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am half Syrian, half Scottish. Sorry I took long. There was a lot of comments on the other chat, but I'm going to end this now, inshallah. So thank you for joining, and I'll see you guys around, inshallah. Jazakum Allah khair. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.